Yeah, no, I just think for me, it's kind of the constant dichotomy of men constantly arguing, oh, well, women want men to pay for everything and want us to take care of them. But then it's also the idea of, oh, well, women can't do any jobs that aren't nursing or being a teacher or doing all these things naturally in the workforce, because women, whether or not you want to argue these aspects of history, on a mass scale, entered the workforce at a later date. The same thing with how women entered professional sports at a later date, or any other kind of gendered aspect of life, which is most of society. You're welcome to interject.
Well, really quick on the professional sports thing. So what exactly, when you bring up professional sports,
Sure.
do you mean because women got into professional sports at a later date, that's the reason why there's like a pay discrepancy in sporting events?
Of course there's a pay discrepancy in sporting events based off of turnout and these other things,
Okay.
but I'm saying there's no foundation of growth. If you are able to acquire wealth and work jobs for hundreds of years, whether it is or decades, whether it's being a doctor, whether it's being a lawyer. And these institutions only existed under the guidance of men being able to do those things, such as Harvard only being a male-only school until the last 50 or 60 years.
Yeah, but
wait, I'm still talking.
No, stop.
Thank you.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, it is not, because my grandmother went to the sister.
Hang on. Women have always outdone men academically, including in high school. They've always had better scores. Always. That has been the case. And there was no barrier for public education. Early feminists were flying all over the world. They were writing books, they were writing pamphlets, they were writing essays, and they were highly educated.
100%.
No men were pushing them out of those domains of academia.
I hear you, and I understand that that's your perspective, and I want to acknowledge that there are so many smart, scholarly women, but it is an absolute reality that women's work has been discredited. I can cite, I studied biological anthropology.
Nonsense. What woman's work was discredited because she was a woman?
Look up when women were allowed to attend Harvard University for me, quickly.
Yeah, why? But who cares if that was exclusive? There was tons of other universities for them to attend to. And what is the problem with having a male-only college anyway if somebody wants to have one?
If prestigious universities catered exclusively to men and women entered these different aspects of the workforce later, it will take more time.
That's not what happened.
And it will take gradual progress for women to continue to be in those fields of study. Are there probably statistically in the US more male chemists or lawyers at UCSB, for example? The majority of professors on the panel of the chemistry department are white men. But does that mean in the next 20 years?
That's because women suck at applied science.
Why?
That's why they all get sociology degrees.
Tell me the science of why men perform higher in chemistry.
Look,
because
at some point you gotta let me respond.
No, go ahead. Tell me the statistics.
Because what you're doing is you talk so much, I can't actually go
tell me
point
the
by point with
statistics
you.
of how men perform higher in chemistry.
I'll try to go point by point. Let's go with point one.
Sure.
Yes, it is true that when you're talking about scientific fields, especially chemistry, that's an applied science. Women don't go for applied science.
That's actually not entirely true. Women make up the majority of STEM degrees today.
Let me finish. Okay, calm down. Soft sciences are preferable by women. They prefer soft science. Sure. I don't know why, right? Nobody knows why. Well, I mean, we have an inkling as to why, but they don't. They don't prefer it. The hard sciences are preferred by men. That's why you see mostly men inside of hard science fields. That is true.
Yeah, so
that's point one.
As of recently, the majority of STEM degrees actually are being pursued by women. I think a lot of that can be attributed to the modern cultural feminism movement at large.
No. The devil's in the details. What kind of STEM degrees?
Largely the sciences. I have a degree, two degrees actually, in biomedical sciences, one in undergrad and one in graduate school.
What about engineering?
But correct, women statistically make up less of engineering programs until recently.
So
women are becoming a much larger
growing
demographic in these things. But this is my question is...
Okay, hang on. Just saying it's a STEM field is not relevant. For instance, if you look at the replication crisis, you'll note that it's not just sociology which it affects, but the medical field as well. Medical fields are full of STEM degrees. However, it's not always replicatable science. It fails up to 60% of the time, for instance. That's still a soft science. Just saying that it's a STEM field doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Stupid in you must really hurt.
It wasn't Brown.
Men went to Harvard or Yale, which were male only. Women went to Brown and others. Brown was all female. Are you trying to be this?
Anyway, my question is, we can talk about men generally having more analytically structured brains, and that's why they've pursued applied sciences larger than the soft sciences, which women generally have pursued out of a more empathetic, emotional perspective historically, and they still do tend to pursue those career paths. I guess my question for you, Luce, is if women have been strategically held back for so long by society, if they've, in your own words, taken so much extra time to be admitted to schools like Harvard or to be given professional athletic opportunities, etc., we could keep going example by example, then what's the solution? Are you just saying women are always going to be considered, in your worldview, second-class citizens, or is there a change that needs to happen in your perspective societally to accomplish that?
I'm not saying that women are second-class citizens in the United States, and I'm not saying that in my personal experience I've felt second-class to anyone. I acknowledge certain privileges that I've had and the ability to pursue education, etc. But I do absolutely think when there is a woman expectation, for example, when my dad left my mom, she became a stay-at-home single mother, and she was living off of alimony and child support. But she needed to be taking care of 2 kids in the home at that time, and the court kind of put that onto her. My dad did not want custody, and I think very often women are forced into positions of nurturing and caring for whether it's their partners, their children, etc. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing or a wrong thing, and I'm not saying that I personally do feel like I do have some level of a nurturing or more maternal aspect to me that maybe a man might not have. But I think it's very hard to succeed in your career for many women who don't have the socioeconomic standing or certain privileges to pursue those fields without, the consequence of having to take care of, whether it's younger siblings or their own children, or being forced into positions of choosing career versus family. I think, is anyone familiar with the poet Sylvia Plath?
Oh yeah,
Well,
I'm very
she
familiar. Sylvia Plath, do you know how Sylvia Plath met her demise?
I do, and my point is she writes a...
Tell them how that
she
Sylvia
committed
Plath met her
suicide, and
demise.
she wasn't necessarily... Oh, excuse me.
Whatever, just continue.
Sorry. She wasn't necessarily the greatest person in the world, but she did write a poem.
No, she really wasn't, was she? She was pretty awful, wasn't she?
She was awful, but she did write a discussion about a poem called One Fig Tree. And she basically discusses how, as a woman, she felt like she had 3 paths in life. A famous poet, a mother with a good husband and good children, or a scholarly professor. And I think that's a choice that women are often expected to choose, is family, career, hobbies, whereas men often get the immediate option of choosing career. And that's not necessarily to say all men want that. But I do think women are asked to sacrifice
she
more
also drew
socially.
pictures of aborted fetuses, and she also wrote poems about unaliving. She also wrote all kinds of insane poems. She was a lunatic.
But she's is she a lunatic any more than any crazy
Than any
artist?
of the feminists? No, she's not any more of a lunatic than any of them.
She was actually
That's
a self-proclaimed not feminist, so do not associate her with that
She
movement.
is a feminist, and her husband was a feminist and supported all of her work with his money because he was a feminist. He propagated the feminist agenda.